Well, for more, we're joined by security expert Scott Taylor. Good morning to you. Tell us your initial take, first of all, on the weapon that he's used. Could this have been some kind of copycat inspired by what happened at Bondi Junction over the weekend, or would this have been completely separate?
Yeah, some of the initial indications and communication about the weapon is that it may have been a flick knife, but I would say more likely it's going to be some type of folding knife, which is sadly more readily accessible. The other thing that probably also ties into the communication that has been mentioned potentially about the offender potentially losing one or two fingers, because with a folding blade, when people unfold the knife and then have their hands around the handle, depending on sadly the quality of the blade or what happens during some type of attack, the blade can close across their fingers. Oh. So it may have in fact been that if this has occurred, that he's done that injury to himself. I mean, from the behaviour point of view, obviously the concerning thing, and I suppose where I'm having the majority of people speaking to me about, is the concerns about the calmness with which he approached, and then even mentioning and referring to what happened recently at Bondi with the same calm manner. So, I mean, from that perspective, with this type of action and like that occurs, which is terribly sad, I suppose there's a few things I'd say in response to that. The first one being about, and it's been covered well this morning, about the need for calm. Please, everybody understand, with the type of response like this to first responders, these are the people as well that are putting their lives on the line that may also then be having to try and come out and assist you or one of your family members in another type of incident. So these sort of responses can make them hesitant with what they're doing. So, you know, we need to make sure that that's not occurring. The other thing about the behaviour like that's occurred, obviously the next step from the police is going to be going through his digital footprint and checking if there's been some element of radicalisation. I mean, you know, an isolated youth, these sort of things. So, I mean, now the other thing is trying to see what drove the motivation there. So there's going to be a range of follow-up things that stem from this.
Scott, you've had significant experience in knife defence. What can you tell us about this type of crime?
Sadly for this, the type of attack being like with like an overhand, like, you know, it shouldn't even have a name, but a grab and stab, in essence, is what's like a very common attack. And so that will occur then when somebody will use their additional hand to grab, stabilise a hold, and then a type of frenzied attack over the top. So sadly, it can lead to some horrific injuries, which is what we've seen occur here. And unless you're aware of some of these things occurring, then it becomes incredibly difficult. You're not in a position to be able to defend yourself.
So what are your main concerns about these type of attacks?
I mean, the thing is, at the moment, because of the frequency of edged weapon attacks, and when I say edged weapon, like, because the fact is, whether it's a knife, axe, broken glass, any of these things, the accessibility of edged weapons is a concern. I believe that there's, sadly, more carrying of edged weapons than what people would readily believe on a day-to-day basis. And so the thing is, just we need to be a little bit more aware from the behaviour of people. And when I say that, I'm not across the details of what would have been occurring during that part with the ceremony, but if there's deviation to baseline behaviour, like somebody walking down the middle of the aisle during that time, and some of those actions, is just to be a little bit more alert and aware about any unusual behaviour. I mean, and I know it's already been said, if you see something, say something. This is about now the time is supporting each other, communicating, but also being a little bit more aware of what's around us.
Scott, if we can bring Bondi Junction in here, the Premier has spoken at length over the last couple of days about security guards not being armed. They're not going to get weapons, they're not going to get firearms, they're not going to get stun guns. Stop and search has definitely been put forward as a way potentially to discover these hidden weapons. Is that the answer here?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot I could say, and I'm quite passionate about this. I mean, firstly, from the security guards with what's occurred and what happened there at Bondi, there is some ability under a legislative element of them having some accessibility to things like, the batons and even the stab-proof vests. And sometimes this doesn't occur because of concerns for public perception. People that engage security be thinking that if you're here as an extension of our customer service and what we do, why would you be walking around with these stab-proof vests and things? And I think, putting it bluntly, if I had to sadly put a hashtag to it, it'd be PPE above perception, because these sort of things, like if we're better placed, can help security, even if it's from a defensive point of view, to delay what's occurring. And don't get me wrong, edge weapons and these sort of things, and sprays and other parts, it still needs to have the right training and accreditation and capability. I mean, we spoke recently about what the inspector did and the incredible calmness and balance to be able to respond under that time. But if any of these items like the stab-proof vest or additional things can help delay, can help enhance people's safety, or even be part more of a deterrent as well, then it's timely for us to do that. We need to be making sure we're taking some progression with this.
Yeah, it sounds like, the fact that there's an investigation after something so serious as this, we're seeing the Bondi pictures again now, maybe something will be done and maybe experts will be listened to. On the issue of social media, which sounds like it may have spurred on the reaction after this stabbing attack last night, and the fact that it was live streamed, it brings people together, people fly off the handle, and then you end up with this. And, as you say, the people who are supposed to help end up holed up and unable to do anything. How much of a concern is that area for security experts?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, what's out there in the social media and the open source intelligence can tell us a lot. And the thing is, it can give us some feedback and content on people's behaviours, their indication as well, like in their actions. But also, sadly, it can be used for unifying people for wrong intent. And in this case, social media could have played multiple roles, could be involved in the initial radicalisation, like for the person, depending on their actions. And I know police will be well placed to be, investigating, continuing their review of that. But that could be a key part of that, where, disenfranchised, isolated, youth sadly become an easy target, like on social media for some of these things, especially for people that are wanting acceptance. Then the other part, from this being like live streaming, the amount of people then that would have either shared footage and jumped on there as well, and that's been just that initial response. I mean, we can all have a protective response. We can all feel anger and upset about some of these things that happen, but we also need to think through the consequences of our actions. And aside from the consequences of the actions, now you've got, and the damaged police vehicles, you've got other people injured, and you've got first responders that are potentially locked in, fearing for their lives, unable to help, or unable to even help other people aside from what's occurred here. We need to really think more broadly with the outcomes of our actions.
Scott, thank you so much for your time. It's really interesting to hear your insights, someone that has the knowledge and experience like you do. Thank you.
Thanks very much.